I wish I had such a session when for the first time many years ago I was confronted to that situation to answer some tenders. In fact, there were customers who asked me, and it was really funny because I'm speaking German. They said, oh, we have a session about tendering rules. Could you attend it? And of course I attended it, but without any knowledge of how and what was going to happen. I'm Christian from Vision 6D, and today I'm going to introduce you to that process through the usage of Microsoft Project. Like that, we will see two things at the same time: how a tendering process happens, some of the rules that are employed, and how to do this, how to plan that, and it's really easy to be done with MS Project. So no worry, no big deal about MS Project. You will learn certain things, but you don't need at all to be an expert in that field. So I welcome you on the channel because this is a live session, so it's an opportunity to jump in and to have some questions. So the channel is currently open, and what you see behind me is what we are going to do. So what is behind me, it's the planning when there is a tender. So first of all, let you understand when do tender happens and who is concerned by tenders procedures. First of all, tenders, it's that an administration wants to buy something that could be services, products. It's often in the construction area, but not only. For example, they want to build a new school, so they won't just go to somebody, some general contractor, and tell them you should build a new school. They will go through a proceeding to evaluate different contractors, and the reason they are doing this, it's first of all to be really transparent in the way they are selecting or giving work to companies. And one of the second point is also an anti-corruption measure. So what I'm going to do with you is to look at several ways to do this, and then to set some of the important dates. Often companies, they are afraid to attend those tender proceedings. They think that it's eating up a lot of time, then it's a waste of time. Chances are really small. Yes, when you do it for the first time, it's true, but you need to start somewhere. So in my case, the first one I did, we were an alliance with another company where, although we were sometimes competitors on some markets, on that specific market for an administration, it was for a railway station, we competed together. Of course, we failed because it was the first time, but we learned from this and then we could improve later on. So what I'm going to show you are those different processes. As I mentioned, you can have this in the construction area. Many things that are done in the construction area from a certain amount, you are obliged to go through those proceedings. If you are in the IT sector and you have, for example, administrations, town administrations as customers, and that the amount of the project goes above a certain level, you will have to go through this proceeding. If you are working for an administration, there are many cases where you will have to go through tenders procedure. We find this at the level of a municipality, town government, region government, and of course at the national level. Most of the railway companies, for example, they always proceed through tenders when of course it's a certain amount. So this was to explain the context of what I'm showing you today, and for this I'm going to set a certain sequence of tasks or activities that have to be done in order to follow an open tender. I will first sit and give you now some explanation. So I welcome you in that session. It's always a pleasure for me to see that I am followed. So let me just greet and say hello. The chat is open. You can say simply hi. So what I'm showing here, it's proceeding. If you want, it can be considered as a project. For once, it's more a project that is on an organizational side. We don't really build something into this project. We are following a certain proceeding into this project. I will give you first a global overview, and after I will build it with you. So to have a global overview, you must understand that I have separated this into two different views of a tendering process. The first part, which are the tasks number 2 up to the task number 20, it's the point of view of the administration that organizes the tender competition. And from the task 22 below, there it is a supplier that would like to answer to this tender competition. And this will be done in a later step. I am going with you to look at first here the definition from the administration side. Like that, you will see the proceeding from the administration side. For me, it's interesting because I have had the opportunity to do this from both sides. I had contracts where I had to prepare all that proceeding for some administrations. This is one of the tasks that I do. Why do they call somebody from outside? It's sometimes because they don't have the time, they don't have the resources to do that, because it's a lot of work that you need to do in order to prepare such a competition. And on the other side, it's also that sometimes they don't have the knowledge how to do this, really in a professional way. Because there are a lot of legal aspects, there are a lot of possibilities of mistakes, and if you make certain mistakes, you might be into trouble. So that kind of trouble, usually they are with legal procedure, so it's not really funny, so it's really better to prepare all this in a really good way. So this is what I'm going to show to you. So to make you understand the general proceeding on that, I have defined here in the table of Microsoft project all the main activities that we'll have. You see that about 20 activities will be done. And you have here the Gantt chart that defines how this will time-wise be proceeded. On top, here up, I'm using the timeline where I can put some selected events or selected tasks. With that, I can give you a clearer information on how this proceeding is going to happen. So that you know, and we are directly going to look at this. So at one point, an administration is having in mind, for example, they need a new IT system for something. So they are going to look into the specific things. They might be in contact with suppliers and they are making up the idea of what they want. At that point, they have to evaluate the amount that will be involved in that project. I will make it simple. It's a project of €500,000, €500,000 Swiss francs, $500,000. In many areas, if you are an administration, then you are obliged to go through a tender proceeding. At the European level, you are obliged from the moment you are above €250,000 for such a project. We will see those levels that if it is the construction of a building, then it's slightly different. It can start from €3.5 million. Those numbers, we must be cautious with them. Every year or 2 years they are reviewed, they are changed, and also depending on the administration you are dealing with, the country, is it local, regional, national, those values might change, specific rules might apply. So take my number as they are, but with caution, and check with the authority that is ruling the tender you would like to follow what are the conditions. So back to the timeline. So at one point they decide and they understand that for their project they need to go through that tender, open tender or public tender proceeding. For that they will need to prepare a lot of documents. You need to prepare documents that describe, of course, the scope of your project, what you want to achieve, how, and what are the features. For that, you will create requirements describing really well what you expect from your system. If you are in the construction, you understand that they will really well specify what they are expected, what they expect as, for example, a new school. In that case, the person or the organization that will prepare the documents is often the architect. So there is a complete preparation of documents that needs to be done. One thing that is really important to mention is that they need also already to prepare the method of evaluation, and this is something in which I was really involved, is how and what should be in the document that is the evaluation document. Because before to respond to a tender, you should already have the document that tells you how you will be evaluated. Why? It's that you understand what are the essential points. Often there were situations where we thought that just the price was important, so the tender that had the lowest, or proposal that has the lowest price, would win. Administrations, they know today that there is a total cost of a product, a total cost of a service, meaning that yes, you buy a new IT system, but it has to last several years. So what will the maintenance cost me? Who will be doing the maintenance? How fast will they be? And if I'm located in France and the company that won the contract is located in Poland, if we have something and we need them on site, can they be on site? What do they propose us? So these are aspects of the project that need to be well managed, and administrations now, they know really well also what they expect from a service, and it's not just the lowest price, but it is the best compromise between quality and price. And for this, they will do evaluations not only on the price, but on the feature and also on the company they are dealing with, the qualifications of the people being part of the organization, like certifications, for example, and response when there are issues with troubleshooting or extensions. So all this must be defined in a method through which you will be evaluated. So this is just to give some explanation of what is included into that document preparation. So if you've never done that, you are working for an organization that is facing this part, be aware that I can work on those parts. So once all the documents are prepared, we will go and launch the call for tender. So the call for tender is something that you will find normally in electronic form. There are in each country's web servers, websites, which are well known by those following those open tenders, where you can daily go look up what's coming new. You can subscribe there, and you will get information by email. You can even subscribe to specific areas in which you have interests. So let's admit the call for tender was emitted, is open, and this is the date from which it starts. So what is important is, as a company, to get the documents, to understand them, understand the estimation method, but this will come back to it later on. What is then also really important to understand is the deadline. Is it for you possible to give a proposal within the time you have till the deadline? And the deadline is really something when they tell you, for example, here the 28th of March, they will say it's the 28th of March at noon. At noon and 1 minute, it's too late. It's really something that is really strict, and it often means that they must have received it by that date, and not only that it is posted. So those points are important. And if you've never gone through that tendering process, or you are thinking about this, this is really something you must keep in your mind. Really, this is eliminatory. It's not because you had a car crash and an issue somewhere that made you 15 minutes late that it will be accepted. It's on the deadline, it has to be before. So you must set in your mind that maybe 1 week before you must be ready. So once this is done, you know the deadline, you are making your proposal. During that interval of time, there is what we call the interval for questions. It means that during that time frame, you can ask the administration certain points concerning the tender, the proposal you are going to make. There might be certain things that are not so clear into the requirements, or that seem to be mandatory but you have a doubt. So this you can ask the administration. So there is an open period that is not represented here because this is the administration part, but when I will be doing the supplier part, then we will illustrate this. So that white space in between here is not that nothing is happening then, but there are exchanges. What you need to know is that any question you ask will be public, meaning that all the other suppliers who have marked an interest for making or giving a proposal to this call for a tender will receive at the same time the question and the answer. So the administrations for which I worked, we summarized regularly the questions we had, we gave answers, and all this was sent in written form, electronic form to the suppliers, and all the suppliers received it at the same time. So this is what is happening here during that interval of time here in white. So let's admit now that the suppliers have made propositions. They are now reviewed by the administrations. So for this there is an evaluation time, and for this the administration is using the estimation method they had prepared. And there's really something where you have criteria and you mark, you give numbers, you give marks to each point on each proposition. That's the way to go. And at one point you might have had maybe 10 propositions. So figure out, as an administration working there, we had to review 10 propositions for something. And usually they are really thick documents and you have many things to understand. But we've gone through our criteria, and for this we did the evaluation. What you must know is that during that evaluation we cannot be in contact with the suppliers. For example, some suppliers, they answer certain things but we don't really get it. We cannot contact the supplier and ask precision on that. This would be breaking the rules. So at the same point, a supplier cannot call. Of course, he can try, and they try, but we cannot give answers. We cannot say this was okay, or yes, thank you for your call, for the precision. This is also breaking the rules. So administrations are really aware on that and really paying attention to that. So with that, you see that slowly we are arriving at the end of the evaluation. At that point, there can be two things happening. Either we said upfront that we will make a short list. For example, for an IT systems, when you have 10 propositions, it's really difficult to select the right one. What is a good proceeding? It's to make a short list, to pick up the 3 bests that come out of your evaluation, and then to enter a new cycle of evaluation. There are situations where, for example, at that point, you can notify all the people that the 3 that are kept into the short list are those ones. So for this, we define a short list. And for example, into IT projects, it's not uncommon that the 3 ones which are in short lists, they will enter a phase that is an evaluation, but the evaluation will be done through a proof of concept. It means that they have to provide software or even install the software and let the administration run some tests on them for a period that could be 1 month, for example. So this is the evaluation of the shortlist. Evaluation of the shortlist could also be that from then on, additional questions would be asked to the supplier to refine the selection. So let's admit now that that proof of concept has been done, that the evaluation of the shortlist is done. So we arrive at the moment when there is a decision on which supplier won the competition. At that point, we will need to communicate the results. And the results will be communicated to all the suppliers that showed an interest, or better said, who sent a proposal to the administration. So this is an obligation. In any case, you will be informed who was the winner and what was the amount. So this is something that in all proceeding is a minimum that you will get. With that, we will enter now in a phase when there need to be done a contract on the contract work. So this is not what I'm going to look with you. But what is important to know, it's once the selection of the supplier has been done, it is also at that moment that is opening a time frame where you can contest the proceeding and ask a review of the proceeding. To be really clear, this is feared by all administrations, because when you need to review, it blocks the project. You aren't allowed to move ahead on the project. So you have to go through the reviewing phase, and often it will request legal aspects. It's not uncommon that you don't manage to have an agreement with the organization requesting the review. They don't want to retract, they want to push it, and sometimes you have to go in front of the court to defend your way to have done the evaluation, and that a judge confirms your choices. So this is really painful, as I said, because the first thing is that those proceeding from that point, they block the proceeding of the evaluation, and you cannot proceed with your project. So this, in all those projects, is a risk. It's something that you must understand when you plan your project. So there is, nevertheless, there is a deadline from which you cannot go beyond to ask for a review of the proceeding, and once this deadline is over, you are safe and you can really enter and start to go ahead with your project. So this was a way that I used the timeline to explain to you how this has to be done, and the timeline is really convenient for this to give those global aspects of a behavior, of something that is happening into a project. So now what interests me here is to show you some of the tasks and also some of the kind of links that I used in MS Project. So for that I will now take another level of this project. It's the level when I wasn't as advanced as I'm here. So you will see it will quickly switch here. And what I have, it's the list of the tasks. So in any tender proceeding, you will find those tasks. What will vary is the durations, and there are no regulatory rules to have those deadlines in place. Nevertheless, the review, there are minimal duration and maximum duration, but most of those time frame, they are left to the administration to get them, to define them. So what I wanted first to say is that I have a first task here, which is evaluate bidding context. Do we do one? Don't we do one? Do we have the information from the administration side? So this is a task I have defined here in the beginning. It's not really important in what I'm showing here, because of course in my case I've set it just to 1 day, but of course in reality it will last much longer. What is now more interesting is that here, during the document preparation, there is a first thing to define is what will be the proceeding, because there are several kinds of possible proceeding. You see that there is a first one, which is competitive negotiated procedure. It means that you know more or less the suppliers that you want to have in your competition, and the amount is way below the 250,000 euros. I think it's 50,000 the maximum allowed in those cases, but then you can call some suppliers and ask from them propositions. So I've set this with a duration of 5 days, the time that you either send an email or you get a reply. These are easy procedures, but limited in the amount of the proposal. Then after you have what are called restricted procedures. This is for amounts that are between or from 0 up to 200,000, 250,000. You can enter there a competition where you are going to ask propositions from several suppliers, but you won't go through the complete tender evaluation proceeding. You will evaluate according to the way you want to do it. So there are no possibilities of reviewing the process, and this is the second way to do it. Most of the cases, they are the third one that we see here. It's the open proceeding for tenders. And for this, you see that there is a certain time of preparation that I've set to 20 days. Let's say it's a month of work. It can be longer depending on the complexity. But once again, this is something that you define. So what we will do here, those aren't important when they are started. What is important is that we have the result of all of them at a given time, and that given time, it's the time when we are going to make or to launch the call for tender. So what I am going to do here, it's to say that all those tasks, they should finish at the same time. So for this, I'm going to say that the longest one is the one here, open procedure with 20 days. So I'm going to take here into the predecessors for the restricted procedure, and I'm going to say that it must be linked with the following one, the open procedure. So we see that it moved, but it didn't move as I expected. So what is happening? It's that they've linked the two together with the default way to link by Microsoft project. It means that one follows the end of the predecessor. And it's exactly what is happening here. You see that this task is following the end of the previous one. So this is not what I want. What I want is that the end of that task here up is at the same level, at the same time as the end of the other task. So for this, I need to go into the information here, and we look at the task with the predecessor. So we find again here inside the predecessor as is defined, and you see that we have here a relation type which is finish to start, which says this task can only start when the task number 7 finishes. So what I want here, you see that we can have other kinds of relations. What I want is that those two tasks, they finish at the same time. So for this, I'm going to use here the finish to finish relation. I'm doing that, and we are going to see what happens. So they are the two of them are now defined as finishing at the same time. So this is one way where we had to change to have that view here. You see that the two of them are finishing at the same time. So you understand that I would like to do the same here for that previous task, to see them all finishing at the same time. So I'm going to do the same, and you know, I could directly go here and key in 7FF. It would simply say that I have a finish to finish relation with the end of the task 7. And we'll see what happens. And you see here, oops, it's not exactly what I wanted. Let me just zoom in, position myself a bit better that you can enjoy a better view on that. And you see here we have the 3 tasks well aligned here by their ends. So what it means is that we have time. If it was just a proceeding of type restricted procedures, we could even start it later than an open procedure, because the time we need to prepare the documentation is shorter. So it's this that I wanted to show you. So this is a good example to show how we can do this with Microsoft Project, and also the opportunity to show you how to use different relations that the tool is providing you. So there is another thing that I would like to show you. It's that all those tasks, they are defined as manual tasks. You see, you have here that symbol that pinpoints them. So I prefer to work with automatic tasks, but of course it's not a question of working with one in manual or the other in automatic. It's not one method is better than the other one. What is important is to know when to use the automatic one and when to use the manual one. But for the moment, let me define all of them here as being in auto mode. So I will define the first here up as auto schedule. I will take just the three we just chose here to show you how we can change them. So I set it on auto schedule. You see, it took just the first one, and now I'm going to extend this. I really need to have precisions in order to pick here. Yeah, I wanted to pull that down, that you can see that you can change also like that, the automatic way. What I want to show you now is that you see that in Microsoft Project we have a change of color. This has become darker blue since those tasks are now defined as automatic. So we have those tasks that are defined here, and you see here I still kept the complete set of document preparation that is defined as manual. I will now move it to auto schedule as well. So like that we have here the first part, which is set as auto schedule. So if you agree with me, we are now at the level where I could say, okay, Christian, we got you, we understand, let's change all those tasks to automatic. Right, let's do it. So I take that one and I pull them here down, and I will do this just on this part we are dealing with. And you see that all the colors, they have changed. Now, I have entered here durations of those tasks. You simply key in a value with saying days, weeks or months. I like to work with days, so I've done that. Here, the definition of when it starts, when it finishes, it's MS Project that does it for me automatically. So now we have those documents here at that level. So let's now face another point. It's that we could launch the call for tender. So for this, I'm going simply to say here that our call for tender will follow the task. Yeah, you got it. Number 7. The number 7, I always said, is a good number. By the way, this was my number when I played in a basketball team. So 7 is a good number. Okay, so you see that we have now a diamond that is here that is really showing when will the tender proceeding launch, the launch date, the official launch date. Okay, so we've prepared the document. What we see here is that we are saying the launch date is the 16th August. If you look closer, it means that you've finished the last document, the tender is almost going out. So I propose that we leave maybe a delay of, let's say, 1 week here in between, because maybe the documents needs to be reviewed, needs to be approved. So how do we give a delay? How do I put a delay on a link on certain tasks? So for that, I go into that task's information here, and again, I'm into resources. And so that we're following, and that I encourage to follow those sessions, because you learn a lot of things, and you can ask questions. And thank you to all those that say hi. I'm really pleased to see people participating. So what I want to say, it's now we would like to add a lag, I said, of 1 week, which is 5 days. So we are doing it here, you see, and we have now here on the diagram the date that has moved. So what do we know till now? We know that we have a certain interval of time when we do the document preparation, and that at a certain date we'll launch that call for tender. So my idea is that maybe we could already show this into the timeline. What do you think? So I know that you agree with me, so I will add to the timeline this document preparation came here up to the timeline, and one point that is important, it's the launch date for the call tenders. So I will also come add it to the timeline. So you see, for the moment we have here the launch date, we had here the time for document preparation. This is something important, so I like to have those things bold and in red. At that level, what I can already say is that you see here that we are doing the preparation, and here we have the date. Okay, so from then on we can say that we had that interval of time from which companies, they download their request, the documentation for the tender, and they can ask questions. So there will be that interval for questions, which I estimated to 3 weeks, let's say 15 days. So this will start from the moment the call for tender is officially launched. So it has really to be bound to the date when we launch the call for tender. So the launch is the task number 8, and I think you got it. This here will start exactly on that date, so the predecessor is the task number 8. Which of course I could have keyed in here directly. So we see here already a certain evolution in our project. So here we have the part which is the part for the questions. So I will change the color here just to show it in a different color, and I'm proposing to have a certain yellow that you can see like that. So with this we already see we had the interval for preparing the call for tender. Here is the interval for the questions. And another important date is arriving now. This is the date when you need to provide your tender. So I'm simply going to say that this follows the close of the interval for questions. So the predecessor here is the number 9. And we have here our date, which is present. And here again, the number 9, we should maybe leave some delays. I would like to have something like 3 days at least, because if the end of the question is maybe a Friday, that people don't have to start already on the weekend. So I will add here maybe a certain duration for a lag. So I will write this, and you can do it also. And I will add a lag of, let's say, 5 days. So you see that instead of going into the information, you can here directly key this in, and like that you've created a delay. So with that you see that we don't see everything really well at the moment. So I can come here into view, and here up you see that I can ask to view the entire project. So we'll look what happens, and it brought me a bigger view of the timeline, and like that I'm sure I see everything what is requested here in the project. So I thank you to follow. It will continue. And I'm really glad to have some people saying, hello, this is really nice, thank you, really. So, after that, when there is the deadline for the tenders, there is an important step which is called the opening of the proposal. This is really something official because the different people, different departments sometimes involved, they need to be here and they need to be together. In the meantime, from the moment that we receive the first proposals till that date, all proposals stayed at one place and nobody had a look at them, at their content. So it's really official. It's like that everyone stays on an equality step, meaning that we didn't open the first that arrived and later on we are going to deal with the last one. They will all be opened at the same time. So this is important to define. So this is not something that will be publicly outside, but is part of the proceeding. In case that, for example, there is a review of the proceeding, we can really say that all proposals were opened at the same time. So this is important for the administration. So I will say that this will follow the task 10. So I show it in the easy way to do it by opening the information of the task. And here I'm going to say that it follows the task number 10, which is here, but will give a lag here of 3 days. I say OK to that. Tender opening, we see that it comes here and it has a certain duration. So once again, I can come up on the view and say I want to see the entire project. So this is the opening, and what I would like now, it's also to show on the timeline here the deadline for the tenders, because this is what is really important. It's that we know when is our deadline to make a proposition, to make a proposal. So once again, this date I'm going to set it in that way, and you see that on the timeline we see when there is the launch for the call for tender and when there is the deadline. So these are important information that we need to see. So after that comes the evaluation. So this can start directly after and is already part when you do the opening of the propositions. So I will simply say here it follows the task number 12. Oh, okay, yeah, it's 11. It should follow 11. Okay, so once again we need to view the entire project. And we see that slowly certain things are starting here to be set in place. And with that, you see how it gives you a better view. And we do the evaluation, and maybe here, after there is another date. In our case, we admit that we go through the proceeding with a short list. So I will say that this follows the task number 12. We have it here on the table. And we will enter into the proof of concept or further evaluation within the shortlist suppliers. And I'm going to say here that it is, and we are going to try to say directly here, it's after the shortlist publication, but with a certain delay. Because maybe suppliers, they need to prepare something, they need to prepare some additional documentation or software. So we are going to give them something like 15 days delay. So for that, I'm going to say that it follows the task 13. It's finish to start. It's a normal relation finish to start. So I'm going to key it in here. It's not complete, it's just to show it step by step. So I'm here. We are going again to say that we want to review the project as complete. But as I said, I want to have a delay here. So we could go in the information of the task, but it's not what I want to do it here, because I've repeated this operation, and I think that you are now able to do it yourself at the prompt here, and it's here we are going to say we add 3 weeks, 3 weeks of 5 days, so 15 days. So I'm putting 15 day. So my function here is simple. Predecessor is number 13. The relation is finish to start plus lag of 15 days. You get it. You're used to do that. Or you learned it. You're fast. I'm sure people following my trainings, they are good. They are really good. So let's see if I'm right. Hey, it moved. So this is really what I wanted. And I think that you know now, and you start to see that we have those different proceedings. So what I want also, it's maybe here the shortlist publication, to maybe have it on online, because for a supplier it's already an information to know whether you are in the shortlist. It's really important because you have to provide something maybe, or you are excluded. So this is a little more painful. But we'll say now that this, we want to add it to the timeline. So I'm coming here, and this is a first date, which is here. It's when you get the first results. So either you know you are in or you are out. So we said we do the evaluation of the short list, and after that, of course, we know who stayed into the short list and who won the competition. And we are then able to award the contract. So I'm here, and I'm going to say that this follows the task 14. And if I'm writing FS, you already know that I'm going to add a delay, let's say of 5 days, because this needs to be done in an official way. You might have some management chains that need to validate your estimation, agree with you. You maybe are going through a steering committee. In my cases, when I had to do this, of course, that after the evaluation we had to go through a steering committee. So we had to schedule this, make sure people are available, and review during the steering committee the results of our estimation. There were some questions by some of the stakeholders, but with that, the goal of that steering committee was to validate the estimation and the choice that was made. So this is an important decision that is made and was made in that steering committee, and with that people were agreeing to go ahead with that supplier. This is also an important moment, because if some department intend to contest the choice you are making, for example, it's then that they have to intervene. Later on, it will be too late. So I had also to intervene for some companies, or for some administrations on this, because sometimes there were issues between departments, and I was contracted to solve that kind of issues, to understand one another parts, whether they were right, how we could arrange, and whether the evaluation was correct or not. And these are tasks where, as a consultant, I'm contracted to do. So, you see, we've used MS Project. It starts to be more clear. So I want to add now this to the timeline. First of all, I've lost the flow of whether this was already here set. It's not. So I'm going to say that we made the decision when we award the contract, but now we need to communicate. So maybe we will say that it is the task 15, and I will again add a delay, a lag on this, and I'm going to show it in that way here. Like that, those that don't remember how it was done will see it now. I added 3D for 3 days here, and we see, and I think that, oh no, it's above my head. So above my head you see those dates that are now set in place. And I would like to greet those are here, because it's really nice to see that people are following like that, and it makes me really happy and really motivated. So we've seen now that flow that is going down, and I would like to add, of course, to the timeline, when are we going to communicate the award that the supplier has won that. So I would like to add this to the timeline. You see it here, and this again for me is an important date, so I will add it in red and bold, of course. So with that, we have the way this proceeding is going, and you see that a tool like MS Project helps you in better understanding. When you are in the steering committee and you say, okay, we'll launch our call for tender on the 23rd August, the deadline will be the 20th of September, and we expect to communicate the result by the 6th January next year. Sometimes when you are in steering committees like that, you will hear remarks like the chief of the department manager will say, oh, but when you launch the tender, you know, I'll be on holidays. So this is important, because before to launch the tender, you are preparing the documentation, but you will need its approval. So how do you get the approval of that manager if he's on holidays? So maybe you delay the launch of the call for tender. There are things like that that happen. So this is experience. So where was I? Okay, we've communicated the call for tender. So now you are the lucky winner. We'll enter a contract phase that I won't discuss in detail, but you might also be among the unlucky one. And this is a game. It's this time you lost, but keep hope and improve what you do, or maybe what you propose is more adequate for another project. Anyway, in the future there will be projects, and it is an opportunity to learn, even if we lost. But what I want to say is that at least you will know who won this and to which amount the project will be done, meaning what is the budget that was finally allocated. From then on, the life of the project can go ahead. But there is one thing: review of proceeding. Yes, I've already spoken of it, review of proceeding. As a member that took part in all that selection process, you have the right, you are entitled to ask for a review, because maybe you thought that your envelope wasn't opened at the right time. Maybe you thought that there were communications between suppliers and some of the administration employees, or that the evaluation is really unfair. You fear that there is corruption, for example. So you are absolutely entitled to ask for a review of the proceeding. And I can tell you, and this I lived it, and I lived the review, that you really have a fear among administrations about those reviews. Because it means that from the moment that anybody is asking for a review, the project is stopped. This is a risk that we, as project manager, we need to consider. So there is a legal delay during which you have the right to ask for a review of the proceeding. Beyond that delay, you cannot. The project is in a secure path concerning this and can move ahead. So this is really something that you must know. And I've experienced on several projects that yes, there are suppliers that didn't make it, but brought trouble. So what you do, it's you start to first understand what's happening, what's the reasoning behind that, and then you might also go and contact the supplier and see if you can bring him to some agreement with you or something like that. If it's not the case, I've lived situations where the supplier leads you to legal proceeding, and then, of course, you have to go with your legal departments and defend yourself, and sometimes you even have to go into a dispute in front of a court. So this is part of the game, is part of those games, and it happens, and you have to factor this into those projects that you want to bring with an administration, or if you are working for an administration, you must factor this in. So what I'm going here, it's, you see, I've added a time frame of 1 month to ask for a review. I'm simply here going to say that it follows the task 16. So it went. I will again ask to see the entire project. This is done here. And what I'm also going to do is to add the deadline, which is here. This deadline will follow the task 17. And this I do not ask any delay, because from the moment the duration of the if you want the grace period to review the proceeding is over, it's really over. It's not the next day that you can complain and you can say, oh, I was late because of that and that, I didn't have time. No, there is a grace period. It's really during that period that you can fill in a complaint. So this is the way to go. So you see, we have those important informations here, and of course I would here I would like to add this to the timeline, because what does it mean for the project manager? It means that it's from this date here that we are sure we can really move ahead with the project. Of course, that if you've entered into a legal proceeding, then all this is simply on hold. You won't be able to move ahead any further, and there are even situations where the judge, he is going to ask you to immediately stop your project. And I had situations where we had suppliers, the lawyers of the supplier, who immediately asks that the project is stopped till the legal proceeding is at the end. So well, this is part of the game, so really you need to integrate this and to make sure you are sure you are getting this. So once again, this is that proceeding. So now I want to come just on something back. It's not really MS project, but soon or later you might be involved in something like that. If you are a project manager doing planning, you don't know what is your next project. You don't know maybe who will be your next customers. You don't know, maybe you change the job, you work for an administration. Maybe you might be working for the private sector who do bid, make requests, make proposals to administration. And like me, one day to the other one, you get a call from somebody telling you, oh, I need you on this because we are making a proposal into that proceeding. You know about it, so come and help us. So this is one thing. So what I want to say, it's also that a lot of companies, they don't dare to enter on public sector. Yes, it's true, it's time consuming. It's true, out of 10, maybe one gets the market. It's time consuming. But once you know to do those things, it's also work that comes in. It's also an income, and they are sometimes really interesting projects. And after that, it's also an excellent reference for you to show that you worked on some project for administrations, for the government or other things. This, I think, I don't have to emphasize on it, you know it quite well. Now, one point where I want to come, it's that out of 10, 9 didn't get the contract. But you shouldn't leave it as such. Usually administrations, they are ready to give you information as to why didn't you get the contract. And you can ask for evaluation reports, what they normally don't send you. But you can ask in the right form, maybe in written, I would like to get the evaluation report. What some administrations also do, it's that they are ready to receive you, to give you explanations. Why didn't you get it? Because you might be in a situation where you have your impression because you know the market, you know the kind of project you realize that you might be the best, but you were not in the shortlist. First question, why wasn't I in the shortlist? My competitors were in the shortlist. So there might be a lot of reasons, but for example, there might be reasons because you didn't present in the files all the information that were requested. There are sometimes, and there are eliminations, because the folder is not complete. Your proposal doesn't fulfill all the aspects that were requested by the administration. So what I want to say, this is an example, but what I want to say, it's always try to get information when your proposal was refused, why, and to get explanation beyond the why. And as I say, there are situations where they agree to receive you, and then you can have an open talk. You can say, well, my proposition seemed really good, and let me understand why I didn't, because in the case that there will be others coming, that I'm better prepared. So yes, this is really the way to go. Also, if you are small companies, you can gather with some others. If you are a small company, you can maybe ask another company that went already through that proceeding if you cannot do it with them together. There are also situations where you have a competitor, and that competitor is already used to do those proposals, but they are lacking something. So why not, if that's something you have it, why not to approach the competitor and to say, look, well, together we have everything they request. You have the experience, I'm new, I'm interested to enter into that market, so let's unite. On other businesses will be in competition, of course, but on that one, let's try to do something together. So this is really excellent. This is the way to see and to have good approaches to businesses. And yes, we are in a competitive world, but sometimes we are competitors, sometimes we are allies, but through this we all learn and we try to improve. So this is what I wanted to show you. And the last point here that I forgot since I started to talk, here it will follow the number 18. It's the communication, of course, of who won the competition. And this I will add it also to the timeline. I prefer to set this as a milestone, so I put it with 0 day, and maybe I give it lag of 3 days. Like that, if we make a decision on Friday, on Monday we can do the communication. So with that we see that we have here the important dates that are shown concerning our project, and I think you got a lot of information. There will be an additional one, an additional session on which we will look really now as a supplier, how do you have to go ahead. You know already a lot of things now, and you can now better figure out those deadlines when they come and all that. What I want in further sessions, it's really to give my experience when I worked within a supplier company, and we had to face one of those tendering process, and we were rejected in that case, and we went to discuss and to understand, and it's one of the reasons that I'm encouraging you to do those things when you have to face it. I would like to say once again, it's true that you need a lot of time to go through those proceedings, absolutely. But I would encourage small companies to try to join a bigger one that has experience, or to join associations. There are associations of companies that go ahead for those things. So this is now important to understand, and it doesn't mean that you lost one time, several times, that you will always lose. Understand what you can improve and improve it. So you see here now, back to MS Project, I showed to you how we use those relations. I showed to you that we can have projects and plannings which aren't a real project where we build something, we didn't construct a building, we didn't model a building, we didn't plan the installation of a new IT software, we didn't plan the development of an IT software, but these are organizational projects which are really important, and MS Project is well suited here to be able to show those important deadlines that we have if you want to enter, or if you are already competing into those public markets. So I thank all the people that participated here, because it's really a pleasure for me to do those things and to be able to teach you and share with you my experience on two subjects. First of all, with Microsoft project, how I do this, and second, as a project manager, how we go about those public markets and how is the proceeding from the side of an administration that is obliged to follow those rules to get supply. And those supply, of course, they can be from office equipments up to schools, hospitals, and really complex things passing through trucks, machines, and all what an administration can use. So there are many sectors that are attached with this. So with that, I brought you a lot of information in a bit more than 1 hour. And as I said, there will be an additional session. So about Microsoft project, also you should be aware that you can have direct sessions with me. Of course, these sessions, they aren't free, but they are not too expensive. And I'm doing this, and it's really interesting to see that I do this with people in different parts of the world, because sometimes it's that they need to learn fast MS project. Sometimes it's that they have an issue, they have followed the free tutorials online, but there are certain things that they need to improve, or it doesn't exactly work as they expect. So in all those aspects, I enter into sessions. And those sessions, they are really efficient because you can learn really fast, and I adapt to your issues. Now, all the aspects also of project management can be discussed, and this I do it from the basic of project management up to project management office, where we steer several projects at the same time. We discuss performances, how to control projects. All that can be done through sessions one-on-one. And of course, I'm also a software developer, so all what is concerning agile methods, Scrum, Kanban, they are all things where I can give you some help. I can enter some kinds of projects where you think that my help could be of interest to you. So with that, I would like to thank you for your participation. You can comment. You can always follow other videos. There are many videos on the channel, and don't hesitate to comment, request things. Usually I answer to a lot of comments every day, and all that to improve your knowledges in project management, share experiences, improve the use of Microsoft project, and give you the opportunity to advance in your careers and know how to better use that tool. So that was for me. I'm really happy to have seen that so many people followed. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.